Getting that first IT job after you've put in all that hard work with school, certifications, or whatever can be one of the most rewarding and defining moments of your life. What I want to talk about in this video is how I got my job as a help desk support representative, or as it says on the job description, network support technician. I hope that this video inspires someone who wants to pursue a cybersecurity position to go ahead and take a help desk role, even though it's not a cybersecurity related position. I know though that this is definitely a step in that direction. You can find countless videos by respected members of the cybersecurity community who are on YouTube saying that going into a help desk position is part of the journey. It's a great place to start. You can go on forums like Reddit. I'm sure you could go on Twitter, anywhere anyone is asking, what do I do to get into cybersecurity? And you'll find someone saying, go to help desk, or at least just start somewhere in the field of IT. I'm also hoping that it's going to inspire people who are maybe in their 40s. I'm 44 years old. I didn't go to college for this until I was 42, and I didn't land my job until this year when I'm, now that I'm 44. I really think it's definitely possible for someone who's a bit older to get a job in cybersecurity. Don't think about ageism or anything like that, or that it's a young person's game. Just get in there and do it. Just do it. Just prove yourself. Just show them you can get the job done. I showed them I could get the job done, and I get no indication that my age makes any bit of difference. I bet it does in some companies, but there are unlimited opportunities out there if you look for them. And naturally, we're going to look at help desk a little bit because I'm going to talk about the stuff I do. So this video could give you an idea about what goes on in a help desk role. There are plenty out there. This is just another one to throw out there. Just more weight to give to what can help someone understand what a help desk position is all about. I get the impression they're different everywhere you go, but there are some things that are common. But anyway, I'll go over a little bit about what I do in my job in this video. So I'll talk a little bit about how I got to where I am, the road there. Back in October of 2022, I got my degree in cybersecurity from ECPI. Earlier in the year, I got my Network Plus. When it comes to the job I'm at, I'll say my Network Plus didn't really give me any leverage as far as getting the position, but it did prepare me to understand a lot of what goes on there. Like for subnetting, for example, I never heard of subnets until I started to take the Network Plus. And we deal with subnets a lot day to day, things like that. So that's good. But anyway, Network Plus probably didn't help me get the job. Might have showed him a thing or two, but anyway, that's besides the point. Now, after college, I didn't immediately start looking for work or anything. In fact, I wasn't going to pursue any help desk position or anything. I was working at a restaurant, and I was perfectly happy working there. I was studying the Security Plus at night, all that good stuff. My main goal was to get a SOC analyst job. I figured that SOC was a great entry-level role to shoot for. I mean, based on what I was seeing on YouTube by a lot of people I respect. So my goal was to aim for the SOC. And again, I'm 44 years old now. Back then I was like 40. Yeah, this was this year. So yeah, I'm thinking 44. I was 43. And I'm like, I've got maybe 15 years to give the industry because I don't really know what the lifespan is for someone in cybersecurity past 60. I'm like, I've got to get in there. I got to get my 401k. I got to put kids through college, right? So I'm thinking along those lines. I don't want to spend more time in this other role. Like, no, if I do help desk, I'm going to have to stay there a couple of years, and then that's going to take away time from pursuing a SOC analyst role. However, that's not the case. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not like that at all. So right after I got out of college, my plan was not to pursue any position, of course. Like I just said, I wasn't going to pursue any kind of help desk role or anything like that. I was going to shoot for SOC. But I had some things in mind that I was going to spend my time doing. I was going to run home labs, make YouTube videos about stuff I was doing on the home labs. Aside from the Security Plus cert, maybe go for something else. AWS or something. I don't know. Just, bide my time with useful stuff. And also build up resume-worthy activities. Do resume-worthy activities so that my resume actually has useful stuff on it. A lot of good videos out there on that too. But I got to give a shout out to my career counselor at ECPI, because if she hadn't have pushed me into pursuing a position, I wouldn't have went for it. And I am so glad I did. But anyway, that was my attitude. No, I don't want to go for help desk. It'll take like 2 or 3 years away from like pursuing cybersecurity, because it's gonna, it's it's gonna consume your time. It's gonna be tiring and wear you out. But I found that that's not the case. It's really quite the opposite. Anyway, my career counselor was telling me you need to do this, and I don't know if I agree with how your employability decreases as time goes on. But I was like, okay, I'm just gonna jump on it. So I started filling out applications. Now, the thing that got me in the door was reaching out to the hiring manager. If I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have had a chance. But I did, reached out to him on LinkedIn. I even thought that it'd be a silly thing, like in LinkedIn, with you can't message certain people unless you have premium, and I didn't have premium, and I was like, well, I can't, I couldn't afford it at the time, so I was like, how am I going to get a message to her? Well, I added her, or send out like an invite as a friend and send a message, and I was like, hey, I just sent my resume to your company, and then that was it. It wasn't that much longer after that that I got a call from the network manager. And that day was just amazing because, well, I still had the interview to go through, but it was something else, because after all the hard work, here I am getting hired. Well, I hadn't got hired yet, but it certainly gave me the confidence to go through with it. And I ended up going through the interview, and I was told that it was one of the best interviews they'd ever had. I just was ready for that. And anyway, that's how I got to where I am. That's how I got into the help desk position. So when it comes to the position itself, I'd say that it's 75% customer service, customer interaction, and 25% technical proficiency. After not too long, you've got the basic troubleshooting down. You've encountered slow speed scenarios. You've encountered different routers, even though the company's got several that customers use. You've still covered all the bases on those. For instance, there's this one scenario that comes up so often. It's a dispatch scenario where we have to send out a technician, and it's so automatic. It's just like there are these three things that you look for, and once you found them, it's like there's nothing else you can do. And this is what you do. That technical proficiency is just in there, and it's just there's not really many surprises. There are, for instance, in training, we were told about a particular hardware configuration where you've got these security systems and then our devices, and they don't work too well. And there will be instances where the customers will just have to reboot them in a certain order. Gets them back up and running, but it's kind of like out of left field. They told you about it in training, but it doesn't come up often enough to where you're not really ready for it. You maybe have to consult your notes. But anyway, yeah, there are surprises, but for the most part, you've gone through everything you went through in training in about 2 months. What I spend the most time doing in my job is trying to figure out how to interact with customers. In fact, I had a coworker who said basically the same thing, that the toughest part of this job is trying to figure out what people are asking of you. When it comes to communicating with customers, it can be something like this. We have this, our fiber modem is called a gigapoint. And I can't just come out and say, all right, let's look at the gigapoint, because they don't know what that is. They might have heard it referred to as that by the technician who installed it, but they're not going to know right away. So then I have to be like, okay, how can I communicate this? So I'll try something like, okay, that small square box? One of the customers called it a puck. I've used that a couple of times. That small square box? Well, what if there's another square box there? What if they have another type of router or something like that? Or maybe they don't. I don't know. But anyway, I'll be like, what? That small square box, or I'll say that small black box. But the box is gray, so they're like, what black box? There's only a gray box here. And you just have to go through all these steps and getting them to get to that one device. And sometimes you have a hard time trying to figure out things like, how do I tell this person what a port is? A lot of our customers are elderly, and they don't know what a port is. Some of them are technically inclined. They know what a port is, but you have to find out creative ways. For instance, you're trying to figure out what's connected to a certain port. You have to get them to trace it back there. So, Okay, you know those little slots where the thing goes into the modem? Thankfully, most people associate modem with the main terminal that they get their internet services from. So that makes things a lot easier. Another interesting example of kind of miscommunication is people will talk about the modem when they mean the router, and by that I mean you've got the main device, the connection comes in through, and then you've got the device that sends out the Wi-Fi signals, and the actual router. People sometimes refer to that as the modem. Sometimes they'll refer to the modem as the router, and we get going down this road, and the whole time they've been looking at the the modem when they thought that was the router, etc. And I'm starting to confuse myself, but you definitely get the idea. Also, my job is to keep technicians from having to go out on dispatches, or as they call it, truck rolls. And you really want the customer to solve the problem with your guidance the first time around. When you call them, you want to be able to guide them through the problem. It can be a little bit difficult, and this is where I like to use a phrase: you got to dig in your heels, because the customer, you're going to lead them down this path, and you're thinking, what if this doesn't work, and what if you come up with another thing that they could do, but they don't want to do it now because you've already tried this one troubleshooting procedure. For instance, the HDMI cable on television. It's completely possible that that could be bad, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking this customer is going to say, I know it's not bad. This is pointless. Why am I doing it? And that's the thing. And then you got to backtrack and try another procedure. The easiest thing in the world is just to send someone out there, but you don't want to do that. You want to try to dig in your heels and get the customer to go through these procedures with you. For instance, sometimes they can swap out a box they know is working, a known working equipment, with the box that's bad and see if it works. But really, are they going to do that? And you got to push these thoughts out of your head. But that's a lot of what this is. A lot of the pressure from the job comes from getting the customers to follow your instructions. And if you don't get it right the first time and you've got to back up, or if you realize you led them down a rabbit hole that you didn't need to, it can be a little bit embarrassing. It's a lot of fun, though. Referring to what my coworker said earlier, it's all about figuring out what they're trying to ask of you. For instance, I can't, the internet's down. And I've heard this several times in different videos, like, well, we know the internet's not down, but what are they really asking? For some, it can be a general, they're completely out of service. For some, their phone just won't connect to the internet, and that means the internet's down. And sometimes you can start troubleshooting different things when you're like, wait a minute, why didn't I just ask them to begin with? Can you connect with your phone? Is it one device? That's something you learn as time goes on, though. Kind of like the television thing. Is it just one channel that's bad, or is it a lot of channels? That has a lot to do with a lot of what I do every day, is trying to make sure that I get it right the first time, so that I don't go down all these different trails when, by asking the right question, I could have just figured out what the customer was trying to tell me in the first place. What did they really mean? Finally, I realized this is really customer service for, I work for an ISP, and we service very non-technical people. So if you're in the technical realm, this is probably a whole lot different. I think overall, it's a lot the same. I've seen videos of people who are working IT help desk for professionals, and they call in with very basic problems, and it all comes down to the same thing: establishing a line of communication to figure out how you're going to instruct this person to troubleshoot to troubleshoot so that they can get back to work, or in our case, so that people can go back to watching Netflix, or whatever it is they watch. So even with all of this, I would not change a thing. Number one, it does not take away from my motivation to pursue cybersecurity. I'm going to be taking my Security Plus exam here in 2 weeks. And when I'm ready to move on, and I've put in my time and effort into this company, they know that I'm going to grow into a position. They know what I'm doing. They know where I'm going. So it's very amicable. I'm very grateful to be working where I'm working at, and I'm happy to give them my time for however long it is that I'm there. I love being diplomatic with customers too. I love representing the company in a good way. I like seeing this feedback I get from customers saying, "I'm glad Chris helped me with my problem." It's great because it really feels good when we solve a complicated problem. We recently migrated our email provider. We went from hosting it in-house and to kind of hosting it through another company to devote the resources internally to other things. And we had to instruct customers to get their email clients working with this new provider. And so many customers were like, "Thank you for taking the time." It's great. I love the feedback. And I keep track. I just to remind myself that it's not bad. It hurts whenever someone is just like, "Thank you for nothing." But I that's very far and few between. I get maybe one negative call a day out of a bunch of what I rate them on a scale from 1 to 10, and most of them are just 10. Even people who are told that it's going to be like maybe 4 days until we can get someone out there, they're a 10. So I love doing that. And if it involves an obscure fix, like I remember when I first found out that WPA3, WPA2, some wireless protocols, there's this discrepancy between that and WPA, WPA2 personal. And some, even though WPA3, WPA2 is backwards compatible with WPA2, WPA to a degree, some customers can only connect over WPA to WPA2. And figuring this out and applying that in future calls is very rewarding. That's one of the surprises. You know, you find out these things that you kind of work out based on existing knowledge or just, trial and error. Also, the pay is good. Would have been a foolish thing not to try and move into a position that I could apply my degree to. I mean, I did not get into cybersecurity or start pursuing it to make six figures. I never even aimed for the upper tier of the five-figure income. It's just, growing up, Linux was like riding a bike. Linux is easy for me. Computing is familiar for me, and it's a decent goal to shoot for. I've had fun studying for the Security Plus. I love learning about this stuff. So, I mean, it's just what I want to do for a career. And at this moment, I'm making more than I ever made in my life, which for me is a personal accomplishment. And I can actually do things and afford things now. And if you pursue cybersecurity and you're serious and you do it right, it's only up from there. One day I think my kids will go to college. I will be able to support that. I can retire. One day when I'm married, then no problem. And finally, in the end, like I said before, the one thing I thought I was going to lose, which was the time and energy and motivation to pursue all this stuff for cybersecurity, the home labbing, the YouTube video tutorials, social networking, anything and everything, building a resume with projects. That's all very much there, and I'm doing it with the same timetable as I was before. So, in the end, that didn't matter, and it would have been a dumb thing to not pursue this help desk position. Anyway, that's pretty much my story. That's what I do. That's a little bit of a look at what goes on in my help desk position. And I think you can translate that to just about any help desk position you can think of, especially the thing about interacting with customers and trying to figure out what it is that they actually need you to do. And, pursue cybersecurity. Even if you're in your 40s, go for it. Send resumes out everywhere. Talk to the hiring managers, put yourself out there, get that first job, and once you're in the door, the opportunities just seem to just completely open up. So, good luck. See ya, pals.